I have a computer science degree that I got with absolutely no intention of ever using. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I didn't pick CS because I had a dream of building software or because I saw myself becoming an engineer someday. I picked it because after switching from business to entrepreneurship to general studies, I needed something that would let me finish. That was the whole plan, to graduate and move on, figure the rest out later. And I did. End of 2025, I walked away with my associates in computer science from the Georgia Military College. And then I just sat on it. Like a tool I bought and put in a drawer and forgot about. I'm 25, almost 26, and I just started to actually use it. Today I want to talk about why I think it's not too late to get into software engineering in 2026 and what actually made me pivot from IT support towards software development and what I'm doing right now. Like actually doing, not just planning to do, but to make that switch real because I think there's a lot of people sitting on something similar, a degree that they never used, a skill that they never chased, a pivot that kept putting a pivot that they keep putting off because the timing never felt right. I'm gonna be honest with you, the timing is never going to feel right, so let's talk about it. And real quick, if you're new here and you're somebody who's figuring out a career pivot or just trying to do something different with your life, go ahead and subscribe. That's a lot of what this channel is about. So let me give you the full picture because I think there's a backstory that actually matters here. I started college not really knowing what I wanted, and I think that's more common than people like to admit, especially for guys who feel like they're supposed to have it figured out already. So I picked business because that seemed practical. And then I switched to entrepreneurship because I've always wanted to build something of my own. And then general studies because I was just trying to survive the semester at that point. And then finally computer science because somebody told me it would transfer well and help me finish faster. Not exactly a visionary academic journey, I'm not gonna lie. But here's the thing, even without the intention, I was picking up something. Like somewhere in those CS classes, between the assignments, I was just trying to get through, and the concepts I was memorizing for tests, something was actually landing. I just didn't know it yet because I wasn't paying attention to it the right way. After graduating, I went the IT support route, and that made sense on paper. Like I had the technical background, I don't have any certifications, but I had real world experience from my consulting and help desk work. IT support was a logical next step, and I genuinely don't regret going that direction because it taught me a lot about how systems actually work in the real world, not just in a textbook. But here's what I kept noticing. Every time I was troubleshooting something, or I hit a point where the fix required understanding of how the software itself was built, like actually built, not just how to configure it, I'd feel this pull. Like there was another layer underneath the thing that I was looking at, and I wanted to understand that layer. Not just fix the symptom, but understand the cause all the way down. And at 25, sitting with that feeling long enough, I finally asked myself the honest question. What do I actually want to build toward? Not what's available right now, not what makes the most sense on a resume, not what somebody else thinks I should do. What do I actually want to be doing in 5 years? And the answer was software engineering. Not the IT support with a better title, not the next certification in a long chain of certifications, but actually building things, writing code that does something, understanding systems from the inside out instead from the help desk looking in. So here's where I'm actually am right now, because I want to be real with you about this. I'm not just sitting here saying that I've already made it or that the pivot is done, but I'm directly in the middle of it. And I think that's actually more useful to talk about than somebody who's already crossed the finish line. First thing, I'm working on enrolling into a formal software engineering program, like actually getting into structured education around this specifically instead of just self-teaching in isolation. That's in progress right now. And then the second thing is that I'm currently doing the Google IT automation with Python course through financial aid. And Python is one of those things where the first time it actually clicks, it feels like something's unlocked. Like there's a reason it's one of the most recommended starting points for people getting into development. It reads almost like English, the logic is very approachable, and the applications are everywhere. From automation to data to web development, AI tooling. Starting here wasn't random. It was just strategic. And the third thing, home projects. And I'm about to start building actual things, even if they're small, even if nobody ever really sees them. Because here's something I've learned from being in IT. You can read documentation all day long and watch tutorials for months on months and still not actually know how to build something until you sit down and try to build it yourself. The project is the teacher. The tutorial is just the introduction. And then there's leak code that I keep hearing about, which I'm about to explore, and honestly, I don't fully know what I'm getting into. And for anybody who doesn't know, from the gist of my understanding that I've received, LeetCode is basically a platform full of coding challenges that tech companies use to interview software engineers. And that's something that you can practice from there, and it's got a reputation for being kind of brutal if you're not prepared. But I think it's also one of those things where if you put the time in, it actually prepares you for the actual conversations that get you hired. Now, I want to talk about the age thing directly because I know somebody watching this thinking 25 feels late when everyone around you seems like they've been building their career for years already. It feels late when you're watching people your age or older who went straight. It feels late when you're watching people your age went straight into development out of high school and already have 5 years of experience. It feels late when the job postings say 3 to 5 years required and you're starting from what feels like zero. But here's what I keep coming back to. 25 is young. Like, genuinely young. If I commit to this right now and put in 2 or 3 years of focused learning and building, I'm not even 30 yet and I have a career that I could run for the next 35 years. The math doesn't make starting now feel late. It makes starting now feel urgent in the right way. Like the time is going to pass regardless. The question is just, what am I doing with it? And there's something else that I think actually works in my favor that people don't talk about enough. Coming into software engineering from IT support isn't necessarily starting from zero. I understand networks, I understand systems, I understand how software behaves when it breaks, and what that usually means about how it was built. I've sat on the other side of software, the side that has to live with whatever decisions the developers made. And that perspective, that understanding of the end user and the infrastructure underneath the code, that's not nothing. That's really valuable. And I'm going to be honest with you about something else here too. This pivot isn't just a career decision. This is something that I've prayed about for the direction of my life a lot. And actually just had this conversation come up with me and my wife and a few other men in my life that, like, what is something that God is calling me to do as far as career-wise and job-wise? You know, me and my wife had real conversations about what we're building towards and why. And what keeps coming back to me is the sense that I was given a mind that genuinely enjoys solving problems, understanding systems, and building things, especially when it has something to do with computers. And for a long time, I wasn't pointing that at anything that could actually become something. This feels like I'm pointing at something real, something with some sort of trajectory, something that could actually become the foundation of what I'm trying to build, not just the next job I'm hoping works out. So here's where I land on all of this. If you're 25 or 30 or 35 and you're sitting there on a degree that you've never used, or a pivot that keeps almost making, I want you to hear this directly. The version of you that starts today is always going to be further ahead than the version of you that waited for better timing. I'm not further along because I want to be right now. I'm not further along than I want to be right now. I'm not going to pretend that the path ahead isn't a lot of work because I have a lot going against me. But I'm moving. And I'm moving in the right direction, even if it's slow progress that feels like a standstill. That's still completely different than actually standing still. So, the degree is in the drawer, and I'm finally picking it up. Better late than the version of me that never started at all.